So maybe you're a player and you fought in some type of encounter that you've never quite faced that difficulty before, or maybe you're a GM and you're trying to come up with an encounter that's going to challenge your players and make them actually think and react and do well, or maybe you want to create something that is easy for them so they can kind of see how their skills have developed. Well, encounter design is a pretty big part of Pathfinder, and it's a little bit different than some of the other tabletop role-playing games you might have played, and it's all kind of tied into how you level. Leveling is always 1,000. You can make it easier, 800, you can make it harder, 1,200, or any kind of number on the scale that you want to, but the base game has 1,000 per level, therefore the encounters have to scale and not the levels. Now, my name is Don. I'm trying to be the Sly Strategist, and let's go ahead and get into it. Encounter design is a big topic, so what we're going to cover right now is we're going to cover XP budget or experience point budget for each encounter. Encounter design really deals with the location, the map, the type of adventure you're doing. Are you going to have undead? Or are you going to have dragons? Or are you going to have swamp monsters? It kind of depends on what you're going for in that particular adventure. And dungeon design is really going to influence what you have in that particular encounter. However, we are going to really talk about how you would do the budget as opposed to picking the monsters. And I'm going to give you a little tool at the end to kind of look and see how you can adjust and make it really easy on yourself. Now, when we're talking about encounters, the most common, without a doubt, is going to be combat encounters. There are going to be times when you're using diplomacy or deception or trying to get something without being in combat, or maybe it is a combat encounter that you've somehow decided to try to not fight in. Well, there are other things that you can do. However, we're going to talk about combat encounters specifically here, and this is player characters facing other creatures. Now, there are guidelines for building combat encounters, and it applies to other type of hazards, but once again, we're going to focus on the actual combat itself. Now, the big thing to understand is there are basically 5 threat categories within Pathfinder 2nd Edition. There is trivial, and trivial level threat encounters are usually very easy. They're serving as warm-ups or reminders of the character's capabilities. There are low threat encounters that offer a slight challenge, using some party resources, but unlikely to endanger the entire group unless someone does something wacky or crazy. Moderate threat encounters are serious challenges requiring sound tactics and resource management, but not overpowering, and generally speaking, the player characters should beat that. Severe threat encounters, most groups are going to be able to defeat this type of encounter, and it is suitable for crucial story moments with a risk of character or group loss, maybe even a full TPK. And then extreme threat encounters are highly dangerous, likely a straight up even match, or maybe more in the monsters category, and should be used cautiously, possibly for climactic campaign endings or with well-seasoned players. So now that we kind of have an idea on what the encounter levels are, let's talk about what the encounter budget would be. So for a trivial, it is generally going to be 40 experience points or less. For low, it's going to be 60. Moderate is going to be 80. Severe is going to be 120. And extreme is usually 160. So once again, you're kind of looking for that moderate as the average, which would be 80. If you want to go lower, take it trivial for 40. And if you want to go extreme, 160 would be the way to go. Now, looking at this table that I have up on the screen, there is a little column that says character adjustment. So let's kind of talk about that. So in the character adjustment column, for each additional player character in the party beyond the 4th character, increase your XP budget by the amount shown in the character adjustment column for your encounter. So in this particular case, for trivial, you would add an additional 10 or less. For low, you would add 20. For moderate, you would also add 20 XP. For severe, it would be 30. And for extreme, it would be 40. Now, a lot of these are going to equate to adding another creature, another monster, another combatant, or it could be maybe taking some of the ones that you already have and putting them in a different template, maybe making them elite in order to bump up the XP for that particular encounter. If you have fewer than 4 characters, you're going to use the same process, but instead of adding that 10, 20, or whatever, you're going to be subtracting, and you could maybe remove a monster or take some of the monsters you have and put them on a weak template. Now, one thing to note, and I'm going to read this directly from the book here simply because it is pretty important. And it's something that in truth, I didn't know immediately. And it took actually rereading everything a few months ago in order to really get it in my head. Note that if you are adjusting your XP budget to account for party size, the XP awards for the encounter do not change. You will always award the amount of XP listed for a group of 4 characters. So if you have 3, or if you have 5 or 7 or 2, the amount of XP is still going to remain the same. Now, before we start talking about individual creatures and what you might do, let's talk about the creature experience points that they would give the party and maybe what their role would be. And this is once again a table in the Game Master core. So looking at this table, if you have a creature that is party level -4, the XP they would give the party is 10, and the suggested role would be a low threat lackey. Party level -3 is going to be XP 15, and they would be a low or moderate threat lackey. And I do like the term lackey. These aren't going to be the main threat of any particular adventure or encounter that you're trying to come up with. Party level -2 would be 20 XP, and this would be a lackey or a standard creature. So it's not low or moderate threat, but this would be your average lackey or side character or minion, if you want to use that word. Party level -1, that would be 30 XP, and that is pretty much any standard creature. You're not worrying about templates. You're not worrying about how far up and down the level they are. This is just going to be a standard creature. So if your party was level 4, then this particular creature would be level 3. Now, if they are party level, you would get 40 XP, and that would be any standard creature or low threat boss. Party level +1 would be 60 experience points, and this would be a low or moderate threat boss. Party level +2 is going to be 80, and this is going to be moderate or severe threat boss. Party level +3 is going to be 120, severe or extreme threat boss, and you'll notice that this actually fits into the category for severe if it was a solo boss. And then you have party level +4, which is 160, extreme threat solo boss. Once again, this is all relative to the party level. Because character levels are 1,000, it's always party level to determine how much XP each particular creature would have. Now, one other thing I'm going to highlight, although I'm not necessarily going to read, is on page 76 of GM Core. They have a little sidebar that says Quick Adventure Groups, and I actually really like this one. If you are looking for a particular encounter that you want to throw in at your party, it has some good groups like Boss and Lackeys for 120 XP, which would be 1 creature of party level +2 and 4 creatures of party level -4. That's fantastic. If you want to do mated pair, you could have 2 at 80 XP each, which would be 2 creatures of party level, which would fit right into that moderate type encounter. Then there's like they have call it a Mook Squad, which is 60 XP, which is 6 creatures of party level -4. Once again, this is where when you see those low or trivial type monsters, and you might think, well, why would I ever want to put that in my encounter? Well, number one, it forces basically more tactics because characters are going to have to account for these particular monsters. And you can also do things like mass combat against lower level enemies. It's kind of interesting, and it's a good way to come up with ways to create an interesting encounter and not keep throwing the same thing at players all the time. Now, I did mention at the beginning of the video that there is a particular tool that I like to use, and I'm sure there are other ones out there, so please don't take this as like some type of exclusive tip. There are many tools out there, but this is the one that I like to use. And as you might have heard from some of my previous video, I'm a big fan of Pathbuilder. Well, Pathbuilder has an encounter builder as well in beta, and it works really well. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Now, this right here is the Pathbuilder encounter builder. It is a super handy way to kind of create encounters and make it fun for yourself and interesting for the party. So I have an example here of a low level encounter for a group that is party level 1 and party size 4, which is the average that you would have. So as you can see, this particular tool kind of groups everything into where it would be. This would be a total XP of 60, and it would be a low threat encounter. Your mifflets are creature -1 to the party, because the party level is level 1. You can go ahead and click on the stat block and it'll give you all the information on that particular encounter. And once again, you can see in the stat block, it'll give you, the AC, what their saves are, what their weaknesses are, a lot of what actions they can do and how they could actually react in an encounter, as well as a little bit of information about them. So it's really, really handy. If you would like to add another one, well, then we will go ahead and we can go down to Mifflet here. And you would just hit the add button and you would add another one. And now the actual encounter is a moderate XP 80 and you have 4 of them. So this is a pre-built one. Let me just show you a little bit how you can do a new encounter, and we can play with the levels and party size and how you would search for individual creatures. Now you would go to the hamburger menu and do add new encounter. And just to show you, you start at party level 1 and party size 4. Let's say we had 5 and they had a party size of 5. So it would be a higher level party with more people in it. Well, now you'll see that this particular scale went from 1 to 5. Now it's 1 to 9. Now, if you want to look for a very specific type of monster, you can go ahead and click on the filter and select, I want to do humanoids, and I want to do only common, and I would like them to be medium. Now you'll see a whole list of particular creatures that you could go ahead and put in the encounter. Let's say we wanted to add a bodyguard. You know what? Let's add 2. And then we'll also have those bodyguards are with a beast tamer and a bounty hunter. Now I'm using a lot of bees simply because I don't want to have to do this video and watch me scroll through a bunch of things. However, there are tons of particular creatures that you could throw into the encounter and it will add everything up for you. So you have an XP of 80. This is going to be between low and moderate, party level 5, party size 5, and you have all your monsters right here as well as your stat blocks. Now, if you wanted to make this a little bit harder and you didn't feel like adding more creatures, well, you can go ahead and change the template. Let's make this one elite, which now takes it a little bit higher up with an XP of 90. And let's make the bounty hunter elite as well. And that takes it all the way up to a moderate. It also works the other way. Let's say we wanted to bring the encounter down a little bit. You could go ahead and hit template and make it weak. And as you'll notice over here on the side, it adjusts all the numbers, so it makes it easier for you to go ahead and create that encounter. If you would like to remove someone from the encounter, you just hit the remove button, accept, and now that particular bodyguard is no longer in the encounter. And it kind of did the math for you as to how much XP they would get. It really is a great tool. Pathbuilder, Encounter Builder actually has a whole bunch of more tools. You could actually create a campaign out of it, but specific to this particular topic, this is a great way in order to determine what your encounter budget should be for that particular type of creature. Oh, and one other quick thing I want to show is if you are looking for a specific level of creature, you can go ahead and adjust the levels here. So that way you can keep it within a certain group or certain experience range that you would like to have your players fight against. Now, this is just on experience point budget and how to actually account for that and how it actually works within the game. There is a whole bigger topic of encounter design, and I could probably come up with a video for that a little bit later, but this one was a very specific request. And so I thought I'd go ahead and put it out there just talking about experience points budget. So I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, feel free to like, subscribe, or hit that notification bell. But whatever you do, I hope you have a great day and happy adventuring. Thanks.